Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Justin the Food Entrepreneur Show. I'm Justin Bizzarro. I'm your host. That's Bizzarro. For anyone who's out there, you can find us on Instagram or on Facebook. You can also find Gorilla Brave on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, all the ones that are out there, Threads. I can't even name them all, but all the links are below, just so you guys know, because you guys keep asking me where to find all that stuff. It is all in the episode notes. I've put everything in there. The transcripts are on Podbean. So if you go to the show on Podbean, that's where the transcripts are. And that's where you can find all the notes from the episodes as well. Any platform that it syndicates on has the episode notes, but you do need to go to podbean.com and look up the show to get the transcripts if you want to look at the episode notes, guys. They are there for you, and there are timestamps, so you can go back and reference stuff you heard if you were in your car or whatever and missed it and don't know where it was. I know you guys ask me questions. Oh, I heard this, blah, 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 the other day. Do you remember what part of the episode it is? I don't, but it is there for you guys. So that's why I've done it that way. When I have repeated number of questions and I have the feedback loop with you guys on the show, when I have common enough questions, I'll provide a solution for you guys. That's why Gorilla Brave exists. The wanting of community, the wanting of network events, the wanting of a summit, the wanting of a different type of growth for food and beverage entrepreneurs that we see other entrepreneurs experience more holistically and across all industries. Everyone asks for something more specific in a community and fellowship. So I've heard you guys, it took a long time to figure out how to do it, but it is there for you in Gorilla Brave, and there are different levels. All of them are free except for one. When we get into the advanced level, when you guys are asking for industry experts, professors, things like that, and educational pieces once a week for what I would call a continuing MBA or the best MBA ever, or continuing education that you're asking for, that costs a little bit of money every month, not anywhere near what I spent on an MBA. It would take 2,000 years to spend what I spent on an MBA and what we're talking about in a monthly fee here. But what I am saying is it is there. We made it manageable, and it is bringing in all the industry experts that we're talking about: technology, social media, accounting, finance. Oh, how do I invest my money once I make it? What if I'm not ready to jump into a restaurant, but I have a lump sum of money? Do I take it out of the company? Do I put it into something else? How do I avoid the taxes in a way? How do I invest it in something temporarily maybe and then bring it back out when I'm ready to invest in another restaurant or a food truck? Those type of things matter. And they do matter in how fast your business grows, how well it takes care of your employees, all of those things. So core values, spiritual leadership, all the things that we sort of talking about, trends, threats that are coming, farming things, food truck things. So it's all there for you guys. That's what you asked for. It's all coming together. It came out a little messy, as things do when you're an entrepreneur. We kind of build planes as we're flying them. In many cases, we take off thinking we're ready, and then we realize we're building. So thank you guys. That was long-winded. I apologize. I'm going to jump right into it. I have a very special guest with us from Charlotte, North Carolina. I have Bryn Collette with us from Our Day. How are you doing today, Bryn?
Awesome. Thanks, Justin. Thanks for having me. Doing great.
Yeah, I'm going to give her the mic. As everyone heard, I'm losing my voice a little bit. So I'm going to let Bryn tell her story all the way from little Bryn to entrepreneur Bryn. So
Yeah.
let's hear it. The mic's yours.
Awesome. Yeah. So I'm Bryn. I'm from Greenville, North Carolina, actually, born and raised. I come from a family of entrepreneurs. So I get it very honest, from a very young age down to lemonade stands and selling bracelets. And like I said, get it pretty honest there. I grew up playing competitive tennis, ended up going to Elon University to play tennis, D1 tennis there, got my degree in economics, where, right after school, I joined an investment bank. So was in investment banking for about 10 years in Raleigh, in New York, and actually in Switzerland for a couple years, which was a great experience. While I was there with the investment bank, I helped them come up with various different products to save save cost. And one of them was to roll out a platform to compare outside counsel costs. It was an RFP platform. At the same time, I was planning my wedding, wondering why this type of solution and platform didn't exist for the wedding industry. So went hands, heart, feet, life savings into building our day. We launched 18 months ago and never looked back.
This is crazy. So, I mean, most people spend their life savings on their wedding. You spent your wedding cost you your life savings, but not in the same way, right? But let's talk about growing up. Let's talk about the entrepreneurial background, your parents, your family, what it was like growing up, your experience, exposure to all of it, the education you received. Let's really dive into that a little bit because I think it's important that we anchor it for your journey, or others that are listening in as entrepreneurs, that they anchor it for their children and their journey, because it's important, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So my dad's side primarily, were the entrepreneurs, right? And, they were young parents. My parents were young parents. And, they had 3 kids right away. We were very little. And my dad was getting his MBA at Duke. And, you know, he was working full time, but then getting his, global MBA, executive MBA at Duke at nights and the weekends. And so there we were, because we wanted to get as much time with him as possible. He would, we would sit in the room and he would teach us what he was learning, so that it was kind of like, that was his way of studying himself. But also, he was kind of teaching it to us. And, just in general, like from a very young age, us learning about entrepreneurship, if I wanted to have a lemonade stand, we would go and we would get all of the product in bulk, right? And, constantly find ways to like reduce the actual supply cost without like ruining the product. And, at the end of the day, maybe we would get $100 or something, and, we would pay him back for the $20 in supply, right? So like from a very, very young age, we learned kind of the principles of business, right? And that was kind of something that I appreciate him for. And, he was also one of my first investors in our day, right? So, big kudos to my dad and kind of teaching us the fundamentals really early on.
Yeah, it's interesting. Wow. There's a couple important things here that I want to just anchor for the audience. One is the importance of, as an entrepreneur, teaching your children what you're learning now also. The leverage it gives them is huge. It gave me huge leverage. And I'm going to anchor this. I've never talked about this before. But when my father first started working for Marriott way back in the day, I was probably 4 years old. This is when he was more of an entrepreneur before he became an entrepreneur. My mom, I would say, has always been entrepreneurial. And my father's family has always been entrepreneurial, just to anchor this. But they brought in a computer to work into the accounting department, and no one wanted to use it, and it just sat there. So he's like, I want to learn this thing. Can I take it home? Now, mind you, my parents are older. My dad was 38 years old when I was born, so he's 42 at this point. So he's an older person in a very younger department, only one willing to use the computer, but he brings it home. Not only does he bring it home, like, mind you, I still can't type, but we learned how to use this thing together, the two of us using our pointer fingers, because we didn't type and we weren't very good at that. So it's not a skill that I'm still very good at, but it brought the computer into the home. I learned how to email. I learned how to do stuff, the internet, way before anyone else, so by the time we're talking about lemonade stands and fruit carts and fruit stands and into college and building Millennium Bridge, a business online in 1998, as well as a food company. The reason I was able to leverage all those things so quickly is my parents taught me. And by the time I was 7, my parents taught me how to build my own business and pay them lease payments or pay them money against the farm equipment that I was borrowing from them. I had to pay for them to rent it like it was a car. And I had to offset my diesel fuel and my gasoline and everything else. And then I would get friends to help. And that would become something. So like these lessons are so important. Now, the way I look at things, and because of that, am I more risk tolerant than most people because I understand all the workings of a business? Yes, that is true also. When you understand the way a business moves and all the pieces because your parents teach it to you at a young age, you can feel it. It's almost like an extension of your body. I don't know how else to explain it, but imagine driving a car. When your car hits a pothole and your hands are on the steering wheel and the wheel jerks, it's an extension of you. You feel the car jerk like it's a part of who you are because your hands turn on the wheel. That's what we're talking about here. When you know your business so well, you grow up in it. We teach our children it. The ability comparatively to others, and I know this doesn't sound correct, but it is true, those growing years, those fundamental years are very, very important. And some of our children don't want to be entrepreneurs. That's fine. We gave them different skills during that time, work ethic, maybe. But the ones who do end up in that space, it is invaluable. The ability to have a jump start in life. Everyone's like financially jump start in life, pay all your debt off, don't have student loans. I get all that. And in a lot of ways, I agree with it, but nothing is as important as intellectual capital and athletic or theater or something based to a team-based environment where you also have to learn being a team. And that's why this episode is so interesting to me and why I relate to it so much. One, the young entrepreneur, the growing up in the family, the challenges, working through things, maybe not making the best decisions business-wise, but we're making them so young, they're less hurtful or harmful when we're making them, if that makes sense to everyone. So let's talk about sports. Bryn, let's talk about playing tennis competitively, growing up that way. It's not easy. Your parents are running you around everywhere. You're running around. You're maybe traveling all over the place. I know Raleigh, one of my first experience in Raleigh was the Raleigh Cup for soccer, heavily competitive soccer tournament for youth. So let's talk about competitive tennis, the dedication, the time, managing school on top of it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So from a very young age, we, played in the tournaments and whatnot, which I'm sure you can understand, right? So, we even at age 14, I ended up moving to Raleigh, right? Living with my tennis coach and doing more of an online flexible school because I wanted to train more. And then ultimately we were traveling on the weekends, right? So we had each state held like a national or not a national, a state tournament that we competed in, and that kind of led your ranking to be able to then get recruited by colleges, right? So, at a very young age, which kind of it does tie into what I learned, with different entrepreneurship teachings from my parents and stuff, is that you learned how to win and you learned how to lose, and you lost a lot, right? And kind of being able to then pick up and practice harder and then win the next time around. That has been instrumental in ultimately, the foundation of my startup, right? And, I think the most important thing that sports has taught me is grit, right? I think it all boils down to grit. It boils down to work ethic. It boils down to not giving up. And, I really felt that going into my college experience. We started my freshman year on the team. We weren't that great in our conference, but by my senior year, we won our conference championship, right? And then we made it to the NCAA tournament. And being a part of that, being the captain of my team, my sophomore, junior, and senior year, and ultimately, leading the team to helping lead the team to that success. That was just it was an honor of my life, right? So sports in general, teaching me grit, teaching me how to win, teaching me how to lose, and then ultimately also being able to balance time management, right? So we had classes, we couldn't fail out, right? I wanted to succeed in my economics degree and, set myself up for that next chapter. But, it came down to practice 4 hours a day, and then studying, and then tutoring to make some money to be able to live, right? So that was long-winded, but yeah, I mean, sports were an incredible part of my journey.
Well, and I want to anchor it because it's atypical for a sophomore to be named captain of a team. Okay. In sports, usually maybe junior, senior, but you've had that honor. One, it comes from work ethic. Two, I believe your ability to lead a team comes from your parents leading businesses in the ways that they do, especially your father and your father's family. So I think that some of that is there. I don't know, but again, I say it because I get a lot of legacy questions and why things happen for certain ways and others. A lot of it has to do with some of these things we're talking about, entrepreneurially leveraging. It's a catapult. I don't know how else to explain it, guys, but when generations are catapulted or compounded, especially in entrepreneurism, leadership comes naturally to those individuals in those families because it's emulated in every part of their life. It's the very ethos and existence of who they are. And we display bad and good leadership, just so I'm clear on that. So it can compound bad or good. So we want to be conscious of how we're doing this for sure, but it is important. It was important for me. It's important for me that as my life transition, as things happen economically in the world and the businesses suffered or businesses went away or new businesses were created or life changed, that I had the leadership skills and the pivoting skills and the life skills and the survival skills as an entrepreneur to continue going. What do I mean by that? That means as an entrepreneur, we often don't understand or think we should be the leader. In a lot of cases, we want to lead, we want to build things, but ultimately it's hard to lead because there's a lot of pressure and we enjoy leading and we want to be the captain of our teams. But at the same time, we don't always want to lead. We don't always want to be the leaders in our lives, but it ends up happening. So there are times we don't want to lead. There were times 17 years in, I didn't want to lead my companies anymore. I wanted someone else to be the CEO. I wanted someone else to come up the ranks and do what I wanted to do. I just didn't want to lead anymore. It's tired.
Yeah.
But guess what? That's not, no matter how much I avoided it, when the leaders that are called to lead aren't leading, things don't go well. So and anyone who's out there, if you're thinking about this and you feel a calling to it, it's growing others is the way leaders lead. That's what entrepreneurs do. Our businesses don't grow unless we're growing those around us first. So that's
a big statement.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's another thing. I'm going to give you free advice. People charge a lot of money. They'll go around in circles as consultants forever and ever and ever and charge you lots of money over a very long time period. It comes down to this, guys. Once your business is formed, worry less about growing your business and worry entirely on growing the people that are in the business so they can grow the business. Once there's a foundation there and you're at a good point, let go and grow the humans and let them grow your business. And will the business not always look the way you want it? Sure. But guess who's more in touch with your customers and your business than you are? Those working in it. So that's just a lesson for everyone. It saves you a lot of time, saves a lot of money, saves a lot of down periods, ups and downs. Just letting go of the business once it's built and then only investing and growing in the humans and letting them lead your business. Let's talk about college. Let's talk about graduation. Let's talk about awards. Obviously, you did well as a student athlete. How did you feel? I mean, comparatively, you're succeeding, you're doing well, but I don't think you realize the distance you're gaining on you and your peers from a growth standpoint. And this is not me versus them. This is not I'm better than them. I'm just emphasizing the intent of growth that you have in your life. You're intending to be an athlete. You're intending to be a leader. You're intending to win scholarships. You're intending to be a high performer in life. We talked about investment banking. It's highly competitive. It's international. So let's sort of take the leap there from sports to investment banking and this grit that's being built inside of you daily.
Yeah, look, absolutely. Yeah. Sorry, you cut out for a second. But yeah, no, that absolutely. I think, look, I mean, in college, there's only so many in honestly, and then out of college, there are only so many hours in the day, right? So, I think that that's kind of a good lesson for those that are trying to do it all, right? That you can't do everything perfectly, but you have to move very intentionally and tactfully. And, I was a good student, right? But I wasn't, necessarily straight A's, right? Like I made A's and some B's, and I did my best with it. I think what happened is I ended up excelling when I needed to the most, right? And that came down to my capstone for my economics to ultimately get the John Kappas Award for an economics student at Elon, right? But it's you try to balance everything the best that you can and really prioritize because there's only so many hours in a day. What are the most important things, right? And that kind of led me to my experience in kind of the investment banking space, right? I tried to be just a very reliable, hardworking human, and it took me far, right? To help them prioritize what's the most important things, focusing on that, focusing on results, and, just ultimately coming down to work ethic, right? One of my biggest things at the bank I was working at is, we went through some tough times, and I think it came down to really trying to find like tactful ways to save money, right? And to work smarter, right? And that's where kind of this platform came in to compare outside counsel costs. We were spending way too much on on outside counsel fees and integrating this platform in to compare them to send out what we're looking for to firms for them to ultimately bid on the matter, right? And that's kind of how our day developed was through that experience and foundation at the investment bank.
Let's talk about skills that carried over now. Let's talk about building your own company. Let's talk about building your own software. I don't know what they call it anymore. I sometimes feel like, oh, it's programming. I'm like, okay, I don't know. But you're building a platform. It's online. You're having to build this idea out. You have experience in building it in other industries. Let's say that. So now you're making a leap into this. You have this idea. You invest a lot of money into it. We talked about it. How do you lead this forward at this point? Because on one hand, in investment banking or in sports, it's other people's money, OPM, as we would say in business. But now you're investing your own money. Now there's an additional pressure there. Now you really have to step up and lead and perform, not just for someone else, not just for someone else's expectations. Like, perform well, be a good human, be reliable. That's for other people. Now you got to do it for yourself, right? And show that others and hope that others do that, which you did for them, which you did for others. Now they do for you in some ways. So let's talk about the adventure. Let's talk about building your own company.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I mean, taking it from 0 to 1 was quite a journey, right? So it started as kind of a concept and, a concept on a napkin, right? It was actually a PowerPoint, but you get the concept where I kind of started mapping out the wireframes. And what happened is I took my idea. So I invested, I think it was 100K of my own cash. Like it was my life savings at the time. And I then took my idea to a couple different funds and whatnot. And, there was one in particular that was also a developer. So Hyperspace Ventures out of Durham, North Carolina. They've been my partner from the beginning, but essentially we agreed that they would help build my product for me. Their dev team would help build my product in exchange for equity, right? An equity arrangement to subsidize the cost, right? So it was about creating a really strong product and working really closely with them to build my MVP and to build it right. But, we had to be tactful because capital, we didn't have a lot of capital, right? Especially at the time. And so, building that was kind of a big feat. We built it really quickly. We went to market June 2023. And since we launched, we've had over 5,000 couples use it to plan their wedding.
Okay, I'm gonna say this, and before I forget, I'm just gonna thank Emily at our PR firm for introducing us, because this product, what you're doing, is huge. It's key. I'm gonna anchor it for the audience as we move forward. Here's how important it is. Any vendor in the food business, caterer, food truck, whatever it is, depending on what I'm looking for in my wedding, I can now put it out to them and they can bid on my wedding, like an RFP process in your notes here. That's what we're talking about here, right? So now it gives everyone the opportunity to have a chance to offer a bid at someone's wedding, potentially, if they have a relationship with them. So that's the opportunity here. We're talking about large connection and opportunity for a greater amount of entrepreneurs.
That's completely right. So the way we work on the vendor partner side, right? You create a profile, you explain kind of what type of cuisines you service, what your minimum budgets are, what your price per head is, where your locations you service, etc. And then you'll begin to get leads, right? And for folks' weddings, right? We're not just doing weddings, we also do private events, but it's great for entrepreneurs that are just starting out in the food and beverage space because they see opportunities that they wouldn't normally see, and comes so they can put their foot in the door, right? They can put their let's say name in the hat, right? To bid on the work, right? So this didn't exist, right, for the wedding industry, and that's what I found frustrating when planning my own wedding. I wanted to explain what I wanted out of a caterer one time and then have local caterers review my request and bid on it. It didn't exist, right? So, and it's one of the only industries where it doesn't exist. So that was the goal.
Talk to me about things like you've built the system now, you've gone through your own wedding. I know, what it was like to get married in Long Island in 2000s and all the negotiation that has to happen every which direction. So this reverses that. This is the part of which I like. The other part I like is the accessibility, which we just talked about. But talk to me about specifically for you, the hurdles, the obstacles, the things that you believe this is eliminated or that you've seen eliminated for individuals that have used it, because I think it's important because this simplifies the process for everyone involved, right?
Yeah. So the biggest pain point we've resolved is that, for a vendor partner, they will no longer get low quality leads, right? They match their budget, they match their date availability, they match their cuisines they service, they match, there are other factors that they get matched with. So the idea is that when they spend time responding to a lead, it's a good quality one. So there's time savings there, right? It's time savings on the couple side. They explain what they want one time, and then partners that fit their criteria come to them. So it really just cuts out a ton of the awkward conversations on whether we're a good fit. And it just streamlines the process on both sides. What we've also found especially from a couple's perspective, is that they, in the industry now, it's very, maybe not as much for food and beverage, right? But the pricings are not transparent, right? And, if you're kind of weeding, you have to speak to the vendor to understand if you're a good fit and whatnot. That's something we're eliminating. We want transparent pricing. And by putting your requests through this, it's an RFP process, right? It's a competitive process. They get the best valued vendors for their event.
Let's talk about launching it, getting it out there to so people find out about it. You've spent a lot of money building it. You've built this, you're trying to get it out there to individuals. How do you do it? Wedding industry is a different animal for sure, or the events industry. How do you start getting the information out there? How do you start building this? Where do you spend your money? Where do you spend your time? And as you launch it, how does the traction go for you? How do you manage it as a business moving forward? I mean, you have a lot of good support, I think, probably from your father as well, since he's an investor. But talk to me about managing the business, growing the business, and, sort of now trying to get the pieces together, get the individuals to start moving the gears to make this successful.
Yeah, absolutely. So when we first launched, and even to this day in certain areas, we still, work with this challenge is that it's a classic chicken and the egg, right? With the marketplaces. So with an online double-sided marketplace, you need couples to make the vendors happy and you need vendors to make the couples happy, right? And so, the way that we focused is just first building like a very, very strong vendor supply of great partners. And that actually has been a huge factor in driving demand, right? So our biggest growth so far has been actually word of mouth. But of course, we market, Google ads, SEO, we focus on our SEO, Facebook, Instagram ads, et cetera, to get kind of the word out. But the biggest way we've grown is actually word of mouth, which is a blessing, right? So we found that by focusing on building out a strong vendor basis, more couples come and they tell their friends.
Yeah, that's amazing. What's your favorite part about this right now? What you're doing, being an entrepreneur, stepping out on your own, getting out of investment banking, maybe. What does that look like for you? I mean, you're enjoying this. I can feel it in your energy.
It changes daily, Justin, right? No, I'm just kidding. The highs and the lows and the entrepreneurship and whatnot. But I love being an entrepreneur. I think it's in my blood. It's I get a bunch of energy from it, a bunch of creative freedom to really try and solve a problem that I genuinely think is out there and needs to be solved. So that's kind of the biggest driving factor. At first I was like, oh, this is going to be great. I'm going to work for myself, right? Which is hilarious because then in hindsight, I work for 2,000 vendors that I'm trying to book business for, right? So like, I work for 2,000 vendors. I have 2,000 bosses, it feels like these days, but that's okay, right? I feel like I have a great team, a great creative freedom, and I just love the hustle.
Talk to me about managing all of those expectations, all of those relationships. Relationships is key for you. Obviously, you wouldn't have been captain of a team if you didn't know how to hold relationships, build relationships. You wouldn't have the success you had in investment banking, stayed in as long as you had if you didn't know how to build long-term relationships. The same is true what you're doing now. Talk to me about managing all of that in your life, all these relationships, all these expectations right now.
It's, at this early on in the business, it's very, very important to have those relationships with the vendor partners, right? So I personally talked to each one of them at least once or twice, right? And I think that that's kind of a very critical element is to maintain a close relationship, to get them involved in our journey. Like we're new, we're a product that we are adapting and iterating this product for you. We would love your feedback. We would love, even if it's constructive, right? Even if it's you, throwing something at me, right? I want all the feedback so that we can constantly improve the product, right? And so by staying close, making them a part of the solution and our growth and our iterations has been like kind of a critical bit. So it's really just everything comes down. Every relationship I have in my life comes down to communication.
Absolutely. No, and clear and concise. And I agree with you 100%. Let's talk about lessons learned, growth for you. If you maybe wish you knew something before that you know now as you've built the business, we can talk about that. But I want to just anchor for the audience as an entrepreneur, core values maybe, or things that you've learned that have really become part of your business or who you are as you've ventured through life.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the first and foremost, right? Like, lessons learned is that, you know, grit is, I feel like, my over encompassing, moral of life, right? You work hard, you do the right thing, you look out for the best interest of these vendors, and then success will come, right? So there's that. I think other lessons learned is that when actually building the business, kind of building a scalable foundation, focusing on like kind of really building a team that really loves the product, that they feel empowered to sell the product, empowered to provide positive change. And, I think that teamwork is incredibly critical, right? So grit, teamwork. And I'd say a third thing comes down to like you're gonna fail, right? You're gonna fail, and every day you're gonna have to pick yourself up, say tomorrow's a new day. Some days are very successful, some days are really tough, right? And it comes down to what you were saying earlier, Justin. Like you felt exhausted, you felt burnt out, but at the end of the day, you go to sleep, right? And you wake up the next morning with a clearer mind and the energy to move forward, right? And I think it comes down to that determination that if you're starting a business, that it's going to happen. You're not alone, right? You start talking to other founders and you realize that they went through a lot of the same hurdles as you did, right? You're not alone. And, but it's, it's an exciting journey, right? But use your resources.
And I agree with you. I call it the jellyfish. It's where like I get out of bed and I have nothing left energy wise, but somehow like I feel like a jellyfish, everything's like dangling, but my body, my energy, my determination, whatever is inside of me, I don't totally always understand it. But in the worst scenarios, when I'm feeling down the most or whatever, or it's hardest to do it, the jellyfish, or I'm tired, there's an energy that still lives on and it still carries on and you still lead and you figure it out and you find your momentum and reestablish yourself. I agree. And there's times and places to deal with things. You learn that as an entrepreneur for sure, especially when it comes to the family that's involved in it. Is this going to grow the family or not? And is it worth it at this moment to deal with this? And so there's a lot of that. I grew up on a farm also, so the life of the animals were obviously hugely important. And life is hugely important in keeping everyone alive and all the plants alive and everything alive. Why? Because that's how we survived. That was the business. That's what my mom did for a living, so these are important things. This is what we're talking about here, guys. Everything in Bryn's life, one of the things that she's been very good at is achieving things, probably dealing with a lot of stress, a lot of pressure, a lot of other people's expectations. But that is what it is to be an entrepreneur. There's a little bit of all of it. There's a little bit of staying true to us in there and being authentic and who we are and what we believe in our core values and building those into our businesses. But there's also a lot of bosses in our life. And being the CEO just means all the more people you're responsible for and to, right?
That's right. That's right. And I think it's coming down to just, what you said, staying true to yourself, working hard, providing a product that actually brings value, right? And if it's not bringing value, then you fix it until it does. And just being as, honest and transparent. And then it just comes down to trusting the process. You're going to get there, right? If you have these key fundamentals around work ethic, about being honest and transparent, and around just like overall working towards something that is a true problem, you're going to get there. Trust the process.
Amazing. Is there anything I haven't talked about maybe that you wanted to share or share about your product or share about your story before I sort of ask the last set of questions?
I was just going to say that we're constantly looking for strong vendor partners, right? So, just I can give you kind of how they would go about reaching out to me and joining, but constantly looking for hardworking, food and beverage providers that want, a chance and a foot in the door. We can give you that, right? So that's all I wanted to say. Constantly looking for good people. Reach out.
Let's talk about mentors, coaches, individuals that have been an important part of your life, whether it was young or in college or in investment banking or now. Talk to me about mentors, coaches that have helped you, and specifically how they've helped you or helped pollinate your growth.
Yeah, absolutely. So my father and my mother, right, in her own way, right, just kind of led from a fundamental these morals. We talked a bit about that. My tennis coach, right, my tennis coach in college, she one thing she always did is she just pumped us with confidence and support, right? Knowing that we would figure it out, right? And so, she was very good about technique and everything like that, but it more was around, work ethic and us feeling that we could do it, right? And could achieve it. So Elizabeth Anderson was my tennis coach, right? In 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 investment banking, right? My boss, Craig Wilson, and Crystal Leem, which was kind of the head of the department. They were incredibly supportive of me and my growth there. They kind of taught me how to be very tactful about with resources and kind of gave me the range to run with projects. Right. There was no micromanaging. They truly trusted me to deliver. And so that gave me a lot of kind of confidence and fundamentals to do this. Right. And then I have several mentors kind of within the entrepreneur space. Hyperspace Ventures, they're led by a team of entrepreneurs that have grown and sold their own startups. So just a wealth of knowledge around the whole go-to-market down to acquisition process. They've been incredible. And one of my advisors, Jack McMacken, he has an incredible business knack, and he's been a huge supporter of our company and our growth, right? So this is just a couple, right, along the way. I'm meeting people daily, and I guess I will also give a shout out to all the other founders that I'm meeting with to talk about our experience, to share resources. Those vary kind of across industries with the marketplace, but they've just been kind of a phenomenal resource to just let me know, like, I'm not alone in this, right? This is a part of the process.
Yeah, I love it. Let's, this will be my last question for you, I think. Let's talk about your core values that you feel are important, morals, ethics, things that have led you well in life. We talked a little bit about maybe work ethic, relationships, but let's anchor it a little bit for the audience. The things that you truly feel are an important part of who you are and your leadership and the success you've had in your life.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, for the business specifically, it's when a vendor signs up, really working with them to kind of improve and, to improve kind of how they present themselves and whatnot, and just being very transparent about the kind of like different pricing structures that may work for them and not. So like, I think ultimately it comes down to just character and honesty, right? Genuinely wanting what's best for the people that work for you, for the people that your investors that you support, right? Like being very transparent and honest across the board, right? Like you may make a quick buck by selling it certain ways, but ultimately you can't be penny smart, dollar dumb, right? You got to think about how you're positioning these vendor partners to succeed long term, right? Not just to get a buck out of them, right? How can they succeed and us grow together, right? And I feel that way about the relationships in my life. I feel that way about how I choose to do business, right? To grow in a very sustainable way. I think a lot of startups try to raise a ton of money and scale as quickly as possible, but then their product suffers, and ultimately, they waste a lot of investment dollars. But starting small and growing from there organically but fast, right, is kind of where I feel like is the most like honest and transparent and thoughtful process to growing a sustainable, strong business.
Very, very cool. Where can they find you online? Where can they find the product? How do they sign up? if you're a wedding, I'm about to get married, how do I sign up? Let's go through all the details and take as long as you want. It's your product. And I think everyone is as interested in I am, at least from the vendor side, to sign up. But I do know there's a lot of young entrepreneurs that listen in that are probably of marriage age. Especially a lot of these young bagel and pizza guys. Geez. Anyway, they're like popping up everywhere. But I think that that's important. How do they sign up? How do they find you? How do they get integrated with you as a vendor? Those are all very important things because I think it'll build their businesses, build your business, and that's a win-win for everyone.
Absolutely. So the website is matchourday.com, matchourday.com. There you can see where you can sign up as a customer, but also as a vendor partner and put in an application. You can always reach out to me at Bryn, BRYN, at matchourday.com. You can reach out to me directly and I can help get you set up, can help point you in the right direction. I can help field your requests for your wedding, right? Anything that would be helpful, you can always reach out to me directly. I'm also on LinkedIn under Bryn Collette Khoury. So connect with me and we can take it from there. I'd love to connect.
Absolutely. From a wedding couple standpoint, I mean, you can pretty much do anything on there: flowers, food trucks, invitations, maybe. I don't even know because back in the day, I remember we used the knot.com and it helped us organize things, but we're talking a whole level of taking all those detailed task lists and putting them into one system and being able to find our solution all in one system, correct?
That's right. So kind of a key difference between us and like directories like the Knot is that that's more of a kind of a laundry list, for lack of a better term, of vendors to choose from, right? So it's hard to see who's within your price point, within, your availability, et cetera. With our day, we have 12 key vendor categories. We got venues, hair and makeup artists, DJs, photographers, et cetera. What you do is you just simply create a profile. You put in a request for a service that you're looking for, and then that's how you get matched with vendors, and they'll start sending you proposals via the platform for you to actually review their proposal for your wedding. And from there, you have a tool where you can convert all your quotes into an easy chart, right? So you can then export it into Excel, or you can just view it there, but you have one snapshot of all the proposals in one place.
I love it. It blows my mind how much easier that would have been than running around 10,000 meetings. Oh my gosh. I don't even, what a crazy it took. And it takes way longer to get organized, to get married, because you are having to do the laundry list. So this is an amazing thing, and it no longer needs to be a second job in some ways. And it can complement your life in a lot of ways now. So exactly. I like this a lot. Thank you, Bryn, for coming on the show. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it. I appreciate what you're doing for the community. It is a big deal. It is a connector. And I actually talked about this maybe a couple episodes ago with everyone. But one of the most important things as entrepreneurs is that, and as leaders, is sometimes we just connect individuals and get out of the way. We build things that connects people and we just get out of the way. That's just our job. Our job is nothing more, nothing less. And that's okay. And we just need to do it really, really, really well. That's what we're seeing here. We're connecting. We have a person that's facilitating and leading a connection and building an industry in a better way that helps everyone involved. It saves time. It saves money. It saves meetings. It's an important solution. I don't think I've seen a better solution to what I would call a crazy part of life than this. This is a lifestyle solution, guys, a real one in the audience. And so if you're out there listening in, it's pretty important as vendors or caterers. I know there's a lot of caterers out there. You guys listen in and you're never really sure how you explain your businesses or what you do. But either way, this is something you guys should definitely look into and participate in, because I do think it is a game changer and it will open up doors, and the first movers are going to have huge advantages. So We'll start there. Lastly, economics degree. What has that brought into your life? What has that taught you? What has education taught you specifically? What are some of those things that carry over from your bachelor's degree into your both investment banking and into your life now? Because I want to anchor the importance of education.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I always say that kind of college is a good opportunity, most importantly, to learn kind of time management and hitting deliverables, right? And prioritizing and whatnot. So there's two elements. Obviously, the fundamentals of economics was very helpful to learn. I was very excited about it. It kind of gave you know, a good foundation for the micro and macro impact of, our economy and small businesses and how they fit in with the bigger picture. But honestly, most importantly, I think that my education taught me some structure, right, too, right, which was great, and how to show up on time, how to go to class, how to, to write, an effective proposal, right, type of thing. And so there's that. And then, just generally education, like reading books, reading articles, reading kind of, learning and listening to experts to then ultimately form your own foundation that you can turn around and give to the next one in line, next generation in line, and help them.
I think that that's one of the things in education we truly don't look at. We're so busy trying to suck the information in or compound it into our brains. We forget the most important part of the education is how do we teach this to others, what we're learning right now. It's important as an entrepreneur. That's always the filter it should be passed through in our entire lives, even in college, even in an MBA, where we're trying to perform for us and our degree. It's always, how is this information going to pass through me? And I can be a teacher to teach others and educate others. That changes the game of education a little bit, guys. And when you do it that way, the value, the memory, the photographic memory of being able to remember things is way different. And I will tell you why, because now it's anchored to our total purpose. Define that for me, Justin. Well, we all procreate. We all create a new generation. We all have to grow that generation. And even if we don't have children of our own, in some way, shape, or form, we're leading or growing others or our community or those around us, hopefully. So that's what I'm talking about here. So thank you, Bryn. That was an amazing conversation. Education is hugely important. And it is important that while we're being taught, we also understand from those teaching us what are good ways to teach, what are not great ways to teach. We know it. We're there. And then we then understand when we look at it this way that we are not only learning over an entire lifetime, and we should be learning over a lifetime, but we're also teaching over an entire lifetime. So thank you. Thank you for anchoring that for me. I appreciate it. One last time for the audience, where can they find you guys? How can they sign up? Where can they find you personally? Website, all of that as we start to close out.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Justin. This has been wonderful. The best way is go to matchourday.com, matchourday.com, where you can sign up as a couple or a wedding planner on behalf of a couple or a vendor partner directly, right? You can always reach out to me at Bryn, BRYN, at matchourday.com, or find me on LinkedIn and connect with me there.
Awesome. Thank you. Everyone in the audience, please like, share, follow Match Our Day. It's anyone out there, you don't even know who you know that might be in the food game or in the vendor game or trying to do a little side hustle you don't know about and build a business that may benefit from this connection. I'm not kidding when I say this. That's why we do things like this, podcasts, social media, build things like this. When the connection is important and it benefits a group, it's important to use the voice of an influencer or someone impactful to get it out there. I have a connector here. I'm trying to tell you guys, you need to pay attention to this. You're in the game. This is a game changer. Okay, this gets you access to a lot more. It builds relationships in a better way and a better structure, in a way that gives the rules that are the same to everyone. Think about that, guys. Not only is it a game changer, but it's defining the game. It's taking football from the backyard and creating the NFL. That's what this does. It takes the wedding game and makes it way more professional and less homey because it's part of our home life and personal life. This adds a professionalism to it that matters, both for the vendors and for the customers being the engaged party getting married, or engaged couple, excuse me. Thank you again, Bryn. Thank you everyone for listening in. Again, you can find this show anywhere: Spotify, Pandora, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and all the syndications that are out there. I'm pretty sure we're on all of them. So continue to look there. But again, if you want to find the transcripts and you want to find the show notes, best place to find them is on Podbean, where the show exists on there. You can click on the episode and there are links to those things on the right-hand side as you scroll down. So thank you, everyone. I love you guys. Please continue to share it. If you like the episode, you think the episode would help someone or help connect someone, please share that as well. If you like the show or supporting the entrepreneurs on the show, supporting what we're doing in terms of giving to the world and the entrepreneurs coming on the show to help contribute to the world through education, giving away knowledge, what we call exporting knowledge to the world, because we are around the world. That's how you support them. Support their brands, share the episodes, the show, their social media accounts that we just talked about, in this case, Match Our Day. But that's how you support all of it. When you ask me how you can support more, where can I give? No, it just doesn't work. We do it for free. How you support: buy the food, support the products, use word of mouth to talk about the products, tell other people who might need it or benefit from it. So thank you everyone for listening in. I love you guys, and we're out.